Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Roll with Advantage, and welcome to the first episode of DM Round Table, where me and the other two DMs of RWA, where we talk about things related to D&D and making your table better. And honestly, this is just also good practice for us, because one of the best things you can do as a creative person, whether it be DM or actor or artist, is to talk about your art. Talk about the thing you do, because that's how you discover new things, right? Don't just run your game every single day over and over and over again and hope that it gets better. Go out, watch other people do it, listen to other people talk about it, or talk about it with your friends. 90% of my best ideas from D&D have come from me talking to my friends about D&D. So we want to do this not just for all of you, but it's also a little selfish. We're a little selfish here because I wanted an excuse to talk to my friends about D&D. So, roped you into it. So, with that, we'll dive right in. But right before we do, there is just a little something that needed to be said. So I'll let you take it away, Evelyn.
Yeah. So, real quick, y'all might notice that I am dressed much more snazzily than I usually am. Much more expressive than my usual dark t-shirt. I have gone on a little bit of a self-discovery journey the past couple years, and if you're in the server or if we talk regularly, you probably already know this to some extent, but I have been exploring a new name and new pronouns and all that stuff, and I'm getting pretty comfortable with saying that I am transgender at this point. I don't want this to be too dramatic or take up too much time here, because honestly, this is one of those things that, well, I feel like I need to acknowledge it, so that there's some explanation, or it doesn't feel like people have missed something. It to me has little to no effect on anything that's going on here in Roll with Advantage, unless somebody has a problem with it. Which, if you do,
I'll find you.
Yeah, for one, if you do, there are other queer people in RWA, so you're probably just going to want to take that energy out of here now. But two, yeah, I just felt like it was time to just kind of say something and to be a little bit more open about that as far as the public part of Roll with Advantage goes. So if you're in our Discord server, my name on there has changed. You can now refer to me as Evelyn, not the name I was using before, and use feminine pronouns, and that would all be wonderful. Thank you in advance for being cool about it. Yep, and that's just me. That's just my own personal life, just showing itself a little bit here. I'm going to be looking more like this and acting a little more like this from here on out, and be referred to that way. So, yeah, just wanted to bring it up so no one was confused. But all in all, to me, I am the same person. Roll with Advantage means the same things to me that it always did, and I am going to participate in it the same way that I always have. So let's just get to it, and let's do the thing we're here to do today. Woohoo! Pride, acceptance, whatever. Got this nifty new little bracelet with the colors on it. Hell yeah. Nail polish. Let's go.
Wonderful. We love it. All right. Well, amazing. Evelyn, just wanted to say I'm happy to have you here. As always. And John, you're fine too, I guess. Alrighty, so let's just go ahead and dive right into the episode today. So one of the things that the thing we're talking about today is running combat in your 5th edition D&D game. Now, regardless of how long you've been DMing, even if you've only DM'd one session, most likely you've probably ran combat before, and it ends up being this thing that most DMs have it's kind of their big crux. They're big, like, oh God, I don't know if that combat was fun. I don't know if it was interesting. I don't know if it was cool. My players, they just kind of weren't very into it. They didn't really care very much. There's a lot of DM anxiety related to running combat encounters. And so one of the things that we wanted to do today is we wanted to talk about what we do in combat, so that way people can hear the things we do, because I would say, probably 8 or 9 times out of 10, my players walk away from a combat encounter either hating my guts because it was that gripping, that frustrating, but in like a good way, or because it was or because
Come on,
they
Evelyn, raise your hand.
yeah
We're the players that hit his guts
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah. But I have less room to talk
yeah
as far as terrible combat encounters go. It's
Yeah.
like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, and or because our players walk away feeling so cool, like they actually did some badass shit. So we wanted one of the things we wanted to do is talk about what we do to make our combat encounters so fun, so exciting, so thrilling for the players to play in them. So hopefully you might hear something we say and be like, oh wow, I've never thought about it that way before. I think that sounds really cool. So we have certain things we're going to talk about today, but if you have any questions about anything, feel free to throw those in the Twitch chat, and we will talk about those as they come up. So first things first, I think John, you were going to say the same thing I was. Felicity actually already had a question that she dropped in the chat.
The cheese?
Before we started. Yeah, what's your favorite cheese?
Cheddar.
Cheddar?
Ooh, now see, this is really important, Joe, because the one time you were gone for 20 minutes in the middle of Salamander Coast, we discussed this at length.
Was this when you couldn't open the cheese stick?
No, this is...
Wait, okay, I also missed that. What?
This is when you were busy, I don't know, buying a fucking house or something. You got a phone call. And,
from my realtor, and we were on the phone for a really long time, yeah.
Yeah, doing some lame, unimportant thing like that. But, but yeah, I think the general consensus, at least amongst me and Cameron, who were kind of leading the cheese conversation,
Of course.
which just makes sense.
That's yeah, very much so.
But I think it was Gouda was kind of a consensus, like, good cheese. A lot of personal favorites, nice. A lot of personal favorites came up too, like pepper jack. I'm a really big fan of white cheddar.
That's good. They're all good. I mean, cheese is good in general.
Cheese is mostly good. Yeah,
cheese is pretty cheesy. Yeah.
First thing about running combat is you need some cheese.
You need cheese. Honestly, though, first thing about being a good DM in general is just having snacks readily available, and sometimes those snacks happen to be cheese. I said pepper jack, unless it's on a breakfast sandwich. If it's a breakfast sandwich, specifically Kraft American cheese slices, I hate Kraft American cheese in any other form, but the you know, the ones that come in the plastic film. On breakfast sandwiches, they transcend themselves. They become divine.
I'm the same
eggs
way
and bacon
with,
and like a bagel. Yeah.
I'm the same way with burgers, honestly. Like good old like smash burgers you get from like a fast food place, because like, you know, like we can go on and on about how it's not real
It
cheese.
seems like we are.
Yeah. We are going.
This was supposed to be. This was supposed to be. What's your favorite cheese? Pepper jack, cheddar.
By the way, that wasn't what I was gonna say. I was gonna say the format that we've kind of figured out 5 minutes before we started recording this roundtable.
Being a DM is all about improvisation, by the way.
Right.
That's exactly what you're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Is each of us have come up with 3 questions we're gonna ask each other that have to do with combat, and we're gonna go around, like in a round table, to each of us and, you know, see how long it takes.
This is a round table?
Yeah, dude.
Shit. As we just saw, I think there is going to be a lot of diversity.
We might get to one of each of our questions. Like,
we might. But yeah, I mean, the thing about American cheese is just that it melts.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Because it's made with emulsifiers. Okay,
so first things first.
I'm the realist.
I think... You know what? Let's talk about Kanye West. Or no, that's Drake. That's Drake, I think.
Yo, dude,
that's
come on.
None of those. It's neither of those.
Wait, who is it then?
It's
Yeah, fuck you. You don't even know. You don't even fucking know.
Wow.
What a bitch.
Hold on.
Well,
no, you're gonna. Of course, you're gonna know when you Google it.
I know.
Oh
her,
my God.
her name. It's Iggy Azalea.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah,
that's tragic. All right,
on the reels. Let's go. Okay, D&D.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
so the first thing I wanted to ask you, and this is just to open up the discussion to things. What's one thing in your career as a DM that you've learned that every single combat encounter, or almost every single combat encounter, you try to integrate that one thing that you know works? And it's like your go-to. Like start off like I love Matthew Colville. He front loads his videos. Like all the best stuff is at the beginning. So if you were to give somebody one thing that's like, yes, that's what I do, that helps my combat encounters, fucking slap. What is that thing for y'all?
I actually I have the answer immediately because it is the thing I actually do for every single combat.
Yeah.
Do. But I but I do this for every combat encounter actually, and I actually am curious later on if you two do this as well and kind of ideas for it. But my thing is secondary objectives, because the primary objective of probably the majority of like more than half of combat encounters is going to be to kill the enemy or at least defeat the enemy.
True.
To me, almost any combat encounter I've made or played in that was the most fun had a second thing going on, whether that be getting an item to a certain place, turning on or activating 5 things while enemies are attacking you, wave defense, keeping an NPC alive, trying not to kill a particular enemy but only apprehend them. It can take all sorts of forms. Terrain hazard is another huge one, and yeah, I try to think of those. I think that the first combat encounters you run as a DM, you're gonna mostly be just wrapping your head around the combat, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Just the HP and AC and the stats and God forbid spells. Yeah. You learn the rules, and then every spell is like, let's break one. But yeah, I secondary objectives. That's like my main thing.
Yeah.
I think is that it just brings so much more life, and like having like third party influences going on. I think it's really cool to think about those things.
Secondary objective. That's a good one. I always love seeing those. John, do you have one? I can go if you still need to think for a second.
I'm still kind of thinking. I think I have mine, but you go.
I'll talk. Yeah. One thing I always try to incorporate is, and now especially if you're a new DM, and like Evelyn said, like if you're just wrapping your head around the rules, this one is probably going to make you want to cry. Break the rules. I always try to let my players, if they bring it up, I try and let them break the rules at least once, because I am a style over mechanics DM, where if you come to me at the table, it's combat, things are getting intense, they're getting hardcore, and you're like, okay, Joe, I have an idea. The moment somebody says that to me, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Let's do it. Let's figure out a way to do it. So let your players break the rules, because I understand you have to maintain that facade of structure. But in my games, and I know it's mostly my players that are watching this, the structure is just a facade. I am okay with tearing down the structure as much as we need to make sure people feel cool and they have fun. Those are my two big things. And I found the best way to do that is if a player says, I have an idea, but it doesn't exactly fit with what I can do on my character sheet, we figure out a way to do that where they can feel cool. So like break the rules as little and as often as you can. Because that's where your memorable moments are going to come from. They're not going to come from, the party rolling initiative and fighting, a horde of goblins and then killing them. No, it's going to come from me saying to Evelyn, okay, you know every spell and you can cast any spell.
That was fun.
Go. Like something that in the rules, in the raw, doesn't make any sense. But, in that moment, we broke the rules, and it will probably maintain as one of my favorite moments, player to DM, where somebody just went hard, and it was so fucking badass. That's me.
I remember this combat encounter I ran years and years ago, where I was still kind of new, and I just like messed up the math. Like they were level 7 or something, and I threw goblins at them, and I realized very quickly like this is not going to be challenging at all. So I decided to just lean into it and say that every goblin had 1 HP, and however much damage you did, that's how many you killed in like a single attack. And that's like a top 10 combat encounter that I've ever run, because it was just so funny seeing like a paladin smite and be like, yeah, I got 32 of them.
Mhm.
just in one. Like,
Oh yeah.
they're like cracker-sized goblins. Just,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have Evelyn's, which was secondary objectives. Mine, which was break the rules every once in a while. John, what's yours?
I think I have the least experience here as a DM. So mine might be kind of cliche. I'll say two. The first one is very simple, and I've learned it, and I've tried to start doing it. It is target the backline.
Ah, yeah.
Because spellcasters in the back, most times when you're throwing them low-level encounters and like not the big bads,
Mhm.
they don't get hit at all.
Yeah.
And so they kind of feel underwhelmed in the combat because they're just like, okay, I'm gonna stand back here, fireball, cool. When you start targeting them, then they start freaking out. Then it becomes more fun.
Yeah.
The main thing, though, I think, and this is the cliche one, is every encounter I throw at my party has something to do with the world and story. A lot of DMs create random encounters from like a table that doesn't make sense at all, where your party is at,
Yeah.
or where anything. Like they're in a forest and they're in just a populated forest, and a Remoraz attacks them out of nowhere because they rolled it on the and if you don't know what a Remoraz is, it's ice worm. So like that doesn't make sense. But they rolled it on the table.
Double doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Just making sure that every encounter builds upon the lore and the worlds as a whole to make it feel more alive. But also it's not just random. They call it random encounters. It's not just like, oh, there's more bandits.
I've done a thing, and Joe, I know you're doing it right now too in Salamander Coast, where you actually make your own table out of things that could happen in the homebrew area that you're currently in.
Yep.
And so you still have the randomness, and you're still able to like notice when there's a moment for you to throw something at the party that would fit the pacing and keep everything moving and fun and all that. But it's not like, it's not going to be a Remoraz in the forest. It's going to be like, it's going to be something that informs the story later on. I think that's the way to do it, really.
Mm-hmm. And that honestly, I did that because it happened in Evrand, and I was like, oh shit, I should do that because we're going into overland travel in Salamander Coast, and it just makes sense. Because Evelyn, what was that? You told me a thing forever ago about how game designers who are designing dungeons, they have 3 elements, or like good game designers for dungeons, they have like 3 elements that they'll have in a dungeon, and each room will have 2 of those elements, where it's either combat and puzzle and lore or something like that.
It's it's like danger, puzzle, lore, reward.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 things. And most environments should do like 2 of them.
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great thing to interact or to integrate into combat encounters as well. Like make sure that your combat encounters have, obviously they're going to have danger, but make sure it's not just danger. Make sure that there is a secondary objective. There's a puzzle in there, or they get a reward at the end, or even better, it's connected to the lore of the area. I think that's super duper duper important. Okay.
Also, rewards don't always have to be physical objects. It could be character growth. It could be anything, like with the
Action
bugbear.
Alliance.
Yeah, and Evelyn with the bugbear attack. There's no way they were gonna even try and hurt the party, but you guys got to set some bugbears straight, send them on their way. That was the reward.
Exactly. Yeah. So before we dive into our own questions, we have 2 questions from viewers at home.
Oh wow!
That I'd like to go through real quick. So Felicity,
this is from Fellas Wild Magic.
Fellas Wild Magic, yeah.
Right.
Said, okay, cue for later. A moment, and player. I think they meant to say a moment a player.
You know what she meant. Move on. It's fine.
It's okay. I love you, Felicity. Okay. A moment a player did something in combat that shook you to your core. Shook you to your core. Literally made you I think that's what shooking to the core looks like.
I'm sure I got a few if I think about it. I mean, I've had entire combat encounters that the fact that they were happening shook me to the core.
Mhm.
You know, like, dear God, how did we get to this place? How did you end up fighting this NPC? You know,
Mhm.
I've had stuff like that. I'm trying to think about like bold and brash moments.
I have an easy one that I can go with because it is, I know it's a meme at RWA, but it's still in the moment I was just like, what? It was when the Runaways got in trouble and Bianca shot those fucking horses. Because it is okay, so what happened, John, was the guards at this watchtower were dark friends, and they knew that the party had been talking with Emeriel. Now, you guys didn't know this, but they knew that they had been talking with Emeriel in Summer's Rest, and Cecily and Desmond got taken by the guards and were interrogating them, and Desmond lied to those guards, or Suni lied to those guards and was like, yeah, we're part of the secret faction that's doing all these terrible things. Our base is there. And they lied. And then Keothi and Cecily and Suni, they all broke out and they ran away, and then they went to the rest of the party and they're like, we gotta run. And Bianca was like, you got it, my dude. I will protect you, children. And they ran. And then the guards started chasing after them, except the guards had horses because they were in a cart. So the guards were chasing after them. And Felicity was like, okay, I know what we're going to do. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to take out Deadeye, my revolver, and I'm going to shoot the horses. And I said, what the fuck did you just say? She's like, yeah, I'm going to shoot the horses. And I was like, okay, all right. And she shot the horses, and the guards that were chasing them fell off their horses because the horses were dead. And they couldn't be chased anymore. It was the best, most effective idea in that situation. But still to this day, it's such a meme because it was such a good visceral idea.
Yeah, well, and it's such a good, it's like a top 5 Bianca moment too, because you know, like she's a bit of a quieter character where, you know, I think what makes her shine takes a little bit longer to notice than some of the other like more immediate extroverted PCs. And to me, that was a moment where I was like, okay, I love this character because we didn't even tell her what had happened. All she knew is that these children that she was traveling with got in enough trouble that armed guards were chasing them on horseback. And without any additional information, she decided whatever they did, they're important enough to me that I'm going to kill a horse so that we can get out of this. And then she just did.
She just fucking did it, dude.
She just did it. And then asked questions later.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So that's mine.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of my favorite.
I have one I just thought of. It was from way back in college. None of the people I was playing with are here at RWA. It was a completely different group that I had. And we were a group that basically were friends because of D&D. We actually like met in a group finding thing on campus, and stayed a group for like 3 years. And for me, it was there's this really big moment where one of my players chose to die, and that's not super shocking to me anymore because the bulk of RWA people, like we're very dramatic. We're very storyteller people. But that wasn't exactly the vibe of the group I was playing with in college to begin with. It kind of slowly turned into that over time as I figured out my own shit more. And we started telling longer, more emotionally involved stories. And there was a moment where they were trying to prevent the main antagonist from being resurrected as a lich. And the stakes were like way up here because obviously in order to be turned into a lich, you have to die first. So the main villain of the campaign was dead. And all they had to do was keep him dead. And they entered this chamber where the ritual was happening. And obviously it was incredibly heavily guarded. They had to fight through like 3 rooms to even get to it. And I just said, you have a minute, which is 10 rounds of combat. So we just went 10 rounds of combat, and we were playing 6-hour sessions in those days, not 4. So you had time for that kind of thing. Because God, 10 rounds online. That's.
It's
I
exhausting.
mean, that's oh god. As we found out in Silent Shield episode 6, that's a long time. Sorry about that, folks. But anyway, but I just set the timer, and they just tried and tried and tried,
Yeah.
and it didn't work.
Ugh.
They got very close, and it just didn't work. Which ended up being the more dramatic story, but obviously was pretty rough.
Mhm.
Pretty rough. And one of the players said, like I described like all of the cultists and the guards and the minions and whatever, all just like stepping back and laughing because they knew it was done. And they didn't even care if they died anymore because it was done. And one of the players described like, I am going to run straight up to the BBEG on the altar, and I'm just going to start attacking his body. And I started saying like, okay, like I know I said the guards kind of pulled back, but like if you do that, they're gonna. And he stopped me mid sentence. He's like, I don't care.
Oh.
And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I told you.
That's fair.
You know. And so he ran in, and he just decided to die. He decided that like my character no longer cares. He has been through too much.
Yeah.
And he ran in, and the villain woke up as he was getting hit, now a lich, and just grabbed the halberd and started beating the shit out of him, and he got a chance to have last words, but he just like martyred. Because he was just like, no, my character cannot live another day with everything that's going on. So he just ran in.
And that's awesome.
It was so incredible. And obviously we immediately started talking like, all right, well, you're still going to be here next week. Like, let's figure out a replacement. This is not goodbye. But like, yeah, I was not ready for that. I had no, like, because when we were doing campaigns back then, it was by the semester, and I could kind of anticipate that, like, in the final session of a semester, probably somebody's gonna die, Like, I could kind of be ready for that. But that was in February. Like, it just happened.
It's right at the start, yeah.
That was huge. That was huge.
No, awesome. Yeah, John, where you at?
Mine's not as heroic and cool. It's not like seeing the player do something and be like, oh my god, I didn't think about that. That's amazing. Mine is more like seeing the player do something and go, oh my god, that's the dumbest shit. So I was running Dragon's Vice Spire Peak, and it was months and months and months leading up to fighting this white dragon, right? And these are all new players, and over time they became very good at the game. They were very resourceful, all this. One of the players talked to everybody else. They had a plan going into this fight. They were able to get to the dragon without the dragon attacking them, and then the fight started. Okay? They had a plan. And as soon as the fight began, the plan went to shit. It was just like normally it does in D&D, but this was like the player didn't like remember anything they talked about. So the monk runs up. The dragon is like 30 feet in the air. And the monk, who is an Eldrin elf, misty stepped onto the back of the dragon that has lost 0 HP. And I was like, and every other player was like, what are you doing? And I'm a DM that once after you've done something and committed that hard to it, it's happened. Like, we're not going back. So the dragon, using its full dash movement of I think 120 feet in a turn, or even more, flew straight up. Strength checks were had, and the monk fell from like 300 feet in the air. But because they're a monk, they didn't fully die. It was just a moment of me going, oh shit, I think they're gonna TPK.
You fucking idiot.
They didn't TPK remarkably, but it
my
was a
God.
moment where I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's how we're starting this? Okay, cool, guys. Because
Holy
even
shit,
weeks
yeah.
prior, I was like, guys, I'm telling you right now, when we get to the dragon fight, I'm not pulling any punches. It's a dragon. It's going to try to kill you. Like, you got to think about what you're going to do. And everything just went to shit for them. And then when the monk got back up, it had created an ice wall around the monk, and the monk couldn't get out. It was like a whole ordeal. But yeah.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was a thing. It was a thing.
Let's see. MTG fan 2010 said, "I thought the monk was going to grapple and shove to bring the movement to 0 and make it fall." Oh, if only that player was that resourceful, that would have been.
Yeah.
No, instead
Also,
they got their shit handed to him.
This was also the character who had the Dragon Slayer longsword.
Also, welcome.
Yeah,
This is a first-time chat.
Yeah, welcome,
That's
MTG
cool.
fan.
Welcome.
That's cool.
So that was a community question, right? That was a chat question.
Yeah, that was. that was a chat
I see.
question.
We also we have another one from
Ryan.
HH Swiss. Yeah, so another cue for later. It's later. Favorite combat you've had in the campaign you're running or playing in, and what made it your favorite? I will go ahead and answer on the basis of Silent Shield right now, because that's the one that's still going on. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that my favorite combat encounter of all of the Silent Shield episodes so far has been episode 5 with the Lycan cult.
To
the moon. But so I mean, obviously, so like the premise of it was already fun. Like there's a group of lycanthropes that have somehow been convinced by a lunatic charismatic leader that they can capture a moon elf and sacrifice her in a ritual to be teleported to the moon, where they will have their full power.
Makes sense.
So like there's that going on. And that's another example of a secondary objective, because Illyria, the person who was going to be inducted into House Ambrose and had 5 HP, was the moon elf that they had captured. And so she was just there in the altar in a bubble. And so they had to deactivate the magic's devices that were creating that bubble and also get Illyria out of there safely. And that proved quite challenging. And I think, though, design-wise, there are other combat encounters that I've done recently that I enjoyed the design of just as much, but it really was just the party comp that made that one very fun, and then just the dice. The dice just really told their own story that night. They told a much more grueling story last time we played Silent Shield. There were a lot of low numbers, you know, a lot of people getting thrown into the pit over and over again. It was intense. But the story that the dice told on the werewolf episode was absolutely triumphant. It was
amazing.
It was insane. It was every round something crazy happened.
I'd like you to know, Glenn, that's one of the top 5.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. I really think I can only take so much credit because the dice were on Joe's side. That whole
top 5 for me, even though my character got completely shit on. Like the whole time. I just got
he really got
dimension door people in there, felt really good about it, and got my ass whooped. But it was a great time.
Well, I'm glad you still had fun despite the everything.
Yeah.
I have mine, unless you want to go, Joe.
No, go ahead. I'm still thinking. I got a lot of shit to catalog through.
Yeah, you have 3 campaigns.
You are running a lot of campaigns right now.
I have 2, and I will make them quick. So the first one, they're both from Evrand, obviously, because it's the only one I run now. So 2. The first one is not so much as it was like a grueling combat encounter, or it took a lot of turns, or the players triumphed across the board. It was how the encounter started and the build up to the encounter, and it was the Eldar fight.
Oh my god. Fuck that guy, but yes.
Eldar was
very
a
good
character that was brought in as the very first I won't say big bad, small bad. And he had been making himself seem like an ally to the party, even though he was a dick and the party didn't like him. He was made with the
fucking dick.
There were creatures attacking this town. He was one of the monster hunters. He had to help the party because of the mayor. Blah 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 blah. It came down to the party figuring out Eldar was the issue. He was the reason these creatures were attacking the town from a magical item. Before this all happened, before the encounter happened, the players broke up into two parties with Joe's character and Rachel's character getting shot by Eldar in the back because he was a ranger. So they went through the forest by themselves, almost died. But as the party got back together, he was at the mayor's house and they had to have a sit-down conversation with him at the table, the mayor at the table, and the party, and tried to convince the mayor, who was already convinced by Eldar, that the party was against it, and vice versa. It was going badly for Eldar, and eventually Eldar threw a dagger at Rian, and Rian took the dagger and broke through the window like pile drive him out of the window, and they tumbled out the window and like had this whole encounter. The encounter wasn't intense; it was very quick, but just the lead up and build up to that.
Oh
was,
my
like,
god!
Yeah,
so fun.
Yeah, the imagery of him throwing the dagger, embedding it into Rian's stomach, Rian pulling the dagger out, running at him, tackling him through a stained glass window as he like stabs him twice. Yeah. Oh my god! And it's raining outside.
To this day.
Rian kept the dagger, and Rian frequently says, "Oh, the Eldar wound."
Yeah. The second one is the Kyrian fight.
Oh yeah, that one was good.
The Kyrian fight. The Kyrian was a vampire who was using masquerading as a wine, a vineyard person at this vineyard town they were at. Basically, was stealing people, using their blood by turning them into vampires, putting poison in, and was distributing this to create more vampires. The party caught on to it. They finally caught Kyrian in this ballroom. He was playing the piano, being all creepy. However, before that, Gideon was captured, Ryan's character, and he smashed a vial of this weird black substance on Kyrian. They didn't really know what it was. They still don't know what it was.
Oh my god.
But it turned Kyrian into a ooze blob. That basically, after even fighting Kyrian, the party was all kinds of fucked up already. Yeah. Then he turned into an ooze blob, and he was still fucking them up. So it was a point where the mansion was on fire. The party was like, nah, fuck this. We're just gonna let it burn with them inside. So they made their way out. But that was, again, and it wasn't really that. I think that encounter was a little bit more intense. But yeah, those two encounters definitely for me.
I mean, I can do one from the three that I play in. The two at DM and Evrand. The one from Evrand's easy because it's the Eldar thing. That's when, for me, the magic of being a player in D&D like happened. I was like, this is so fucking cool. Like, I was like, yes, this was amazing. And that high is something that I still get like every other session playing in Evrand. So thank you very much for that, Jonathan, because that's all you. I mean, I guess I'll do 4, just they're short, but then in Silent Shield, just that way I can tap on all of them. It was definitely the Logain thing, being able to like fucking Dimension Door and Counterspell and Dimension Door and Cone of Cold and Dimension Door and that shit. I felt like a fucking master of magic.
Well, and you, this is an example of kind of bending rules, or at least bending expectations, because you having a good idea changed that entire combat encounter. Because you may recall, you were the first person to hit the pool of cold necrotic energy in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
And I initially said, okay, Logain, you are about to hit the pool, and I was just going to have you roll the first save.
Yeah.
To, see how much damage you took, see if you get sucked into the whirlpool. But then you said, can I do something? And as you stated earlier, of course I'm going to hear you out. Like, yeah, no, this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
Yeah.
And then you wanted to basically play Portal. And just, open a dimension door as you were falling in and just and appears somewhere else. And I was like, hell yeah. And so then we did that, and then every time after that somebody hit the water, the precedent had been set that you have time. Like, you won't hit it until the end of your turn. And then so everybody did a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I that's one of those, like, changes where I'm like, I'm not upset about it at all. Like, would the combat encounter have been a little bit harder without that? Sure, but it was hard enough. And, like, everybody got a chance to do cool shit, you know? So yeah. I'm glad you had fun with that one.
Oh, no, I did. It makes me want to play a sorcerer in a long-term campaign, but like, oh, God, I don't know if I want to go through the first. But then I also hated not having enough spells to choose from. That sucked. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about.
You somehow were upset about that and couldn't decide between which spell to cast. Which I find remarkable. I don't want to know how you'd play a cleric.
It'd be miserable. It'd be miserable. I would want to so bad.
3 campaigns.
Okay, so I'll do Salamander Coast because that one was the easiest one for me to come up with. It was the fight against Magni and Modi when the Dark One like took the two of them over.
Yeah.
And obviously having the whole Cecily death thing happen because I think that was the first time in any of the campaigns where a player character died. So that one was
like not scripted either. Like just
And that one was a rough encounter for everybody involved. Like it was not easy. In fact, it was very difficult. And it proven so. That's my favorite one from SC. From Afera.
Starting to pretty, isn't it?
I think so. The whole blowing up the ship was just cool, but it wasn't traditional combat. So if I were to pick a traditional combat one, I think I would choose. You know what? I think I would choose the fight against the Death Knight. In the Dragon's Lair, because playing the fucking Gwen theme from Dark Souls and having it be like you guys had to fix him. You couldn't just kill him. Yeah, you had to like break the curse and do all that. I secondary objectives, like Evelyn said. That's the bomb diggity shit. Isles though.
Isles has a lot of boss battles.
Yeah, it does.
They really do.
I would say it is a tie for me between I loved the Snake in the Grass boss fight, that was all Evelyn's design. I'm just the person who ran it, which was wonderful.
Yeah, Minotaur skeleton, baby.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I will say that I was, even though it was really tense and really uncomfortable and awkward, I loved the combat encounter from last session for Isles, where they decided to, through an NPC, call up Thor and say, hey, we know where a giant's going to be. And it just so happens that this giant is one of the 13 Forsaken. Will you be there? And then Thor showed up and was like, yeah, I'll fucking be there.
Wait, I missed that. Did Thor show up and kill Lorrokan or fight Lorrokan? Lorrokan's the giant, right?
Yeah, Lorrokan he's the Goliath, yeah. And here's the thing about that. So Malice was there too. They were able to do all that, and they were able to jump them. But the thing is, because they're the Forsaken, they're not Nakure, and they're not Clementine. So they're not going to fight to the death in that moment. Like, Lorrokan is a ranger, and Malice is a sorcerer. So both of them ran. And Lorrokan literally cast etherealness, stepped into the ethereal plane, and just ran away.
He was like, I'm out, dude.
Yeah, he was out. After Thor, I think, did 150 damage to him in one round. It was ridiculous.
Thor.
God, we gotta fight him at some point.
Yeah, it was very scary for Gemma and Felicity.
Thor at some point?
Yeah, because
SC probably, yeah.
Well, Salamander Coast killed his sons.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Let's back up. I'm joining SC
tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's right.
You haven't told me you guys you're gonna fucking
dude. Listen, Cecily.
So happy for that.
Listen, Cecily, Tyr, Cecily, Odin, jealous, Odin family. That's the plot.
Yep.
I mean, that's that plot. That's that plot.
Yeah.
That's like the E plot.
Interesting.
But
Well-
here's the thing: is about that situation is Thor did kill Lorokan, right? Lorokan escaped, and then Thor tracked him down because he went back to Odin and he was like, "Odin, I can kill one of the 13. I just need you to give me the ability to see into the ethereal plane." And Odin said, "Okay, I trust you." And the party didn't see this, but Odin said, "Don't fuck up. When you kill him, I'm gonna give you the ability to cast Balefire, but don't fucking forget it." And Thor's a fucking idiot. He's stupid. He let his rage blind him, and he killed Lorokan, but he didn't use Balefire. The one thing Odin told him to do, he couldn't fucking do it. So he returns to the party, Lorokan's head in his hand, and throws it to the party, be like, "Look, I did the thing. Are you proud of me?" And Lila, of all people, was like, "Did you use Balefire?" And Thor went, "What?" And here you have a dead Forsaken. And Thor had the fucking ability to cast Balefire, and everybody was so mad at Thor. And Odin, fucking the crow, showed up and was like, "You fucking idiot, you can't do anything right." And then Thor was just a big baby. He was just so sad. But that combat encounter was so tense because the party was like outmatched, right? They're level 9, but you need to be a party of level like 11 or 12s to really take on the Forsaken. So Thor was a great thing to have, but it still just didn't work out the way they wanted to. But I love that because the next time they fight Malice or the next time they fight Lorokan, there is going to be this fucking intensity to it where it is like, this time, motherfucker, you're not getting out. You're not fucking escaping this time.
I love when a big bad gets away, because
Yeah.
the next time the party sees them, it's like just fucking, it's on. Fuck you! I'm gonna kill your ass.
I think that's another thing that the secondary objectives do is that, like, a lot of times there's not a reason for somebody to fight to the death, you know? That tends to be a lot of combat encounters, but, like, you know, like you could have a predator creature descend upon the party because they're looking for food, and then party gets them down to like half health, and they're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go eat a rabbit," like, you know, and then they just leave. Like, that's a totally reasonable and verisimilitude-y thing for like a creature to do.
Verisimilitude-y.
Verisimilitude-y. It's like, you can tell I have studied the arts, but you can also tell that I kind of only remember it a little bit. No, I think another thing too is, like, I really at some point want to do a Rakshasa Big Bad at some point.
Me too, dude.
And I did one way back, but I was a new DM at the time and I didn't take advantage of it. And that's a villain that would, like,
maybe a little bit.
You know, like, if combat had begun, it knew it was gonna win, and if the second it wasn't going to, it leaves.
Yeah, it's out of there.
You know, and like, how do you?
Well, not only that.
How do you deal with that? You know.
Well, not only that. Rakshasa have that ability. If you don't kill them in their plane, they keep coming back.
Yeah. So that. It's like the campaign is in the monster, and I love it. It's like a top 10 monster for me. It can disguise itself as NPCs that you slowly grow to trust. You have to have a final battle with it in hell, or else it's not actually dead.
Level spells, I think.
Yeah, and you basically,
oh my God.
You pretty much can't even hurt it until you're like level 13, basically.
Oh, let me write this down real quick.
And so it's like. The campaign is there. I just love that creature a lot.
I think not to cut us off on this one, we should move on to the next one. We have a question from an MTG fan. And their question is air to ground or ground to air. Do you guys have a shorthand figuring range, or just whip out the Pythagorean theorem? I don't recall if there's anything in the DMG about that or the PHB.
My answer to this is pretty simple. I base it off of distance. Like, if you're playing on a flat 2D map, literally how far is the character away from it? And then if they're right underneath it, then we just go by the vertical distance. But I find that it just, to me, takes up too much time to try and Pythagorean theorem it out. When it's like, okay, the range is 60 feet. of the spell, you're 45 feet away from them this way, we're not going to worry about it. Or you're just at the edge of the range, we're not going to worry about it. You cast the spell. Because it just, at that point, you know, it just, part of the big thing in D&D combat is trimming the fat so it is as streamlined as it can be, so you get through it as quick as you can while still being able to have a lot of fun. And doing that listen, unless you enjoy geometry a lot more than me, Pythagorean theorem's not fun for anybody involved.
Look, I've had players who are very adamant about using the Pythagorean theorem, and I've had to because they won't leave it alone. It is nearly impossible. Not impossible, because there's tools you can do it. But because we're playing online D&D and we don't have the miniatures to create that 3-dimensional space, and we can't put miniature here, miniature here, and you can't physically see that in online D&D. You just have a number next to their token that says 30. And that's pretty much it. That's what you go off of.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. Like if they're 60 feet in the air and you're right under them and your spell is 60 foot, you got them.
Yeah.
If they're 60 feet in the air and you're just a square away, not right under them, then you don't got them, because that's more than 60 feet.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I same opinion. And I was dealing with this even rougher, because when I first bought all of the Dungeon Master stuff back in high school, I got the core rule books and I got a screen and stuff, and then I was pretty much out of money. So like I couldn't get shit to do minis or whatever. So my like $10 solution to wanting to play this game but being out of money to buy any more stuff other than the books and the dice and the DM screen was to buy a whiteboard with 4 markers, and I literally would be like, black is the terrain, and I just drew, I would make notes and then just copy it on the whiteboard. Yeah. And then between maps, I would literally just erase it and manually draw it again as quick as I could. And I told the players, like, now is your time to strategize and cast healing spells and whatever if you want to do that.
Yeah.
As we're, like, loading. But and I would just be like, black is the terrain, green is y'all, blue is neutral or allies, red is enemies. Okay. And then I would describe, like, this peanut-looking thing that I drew diagonal lines through, that's a rock, you can hide behind that. That squiggle's a tree, you know. But, like, that was it, you know, that's what we were working with. And so, not only was I not doing Pythagorean theorem, I was hardly fucking doing distance. I would be like, I would put, like, a little key in the corner that would be like, this map is currently about 100 feet this way and 150 feet this way. Yeah. So you had a general enough sense. And then we would just use that and be like, yeah, like, you're about a turn of movement away from this person.
Yeah.
So we'll say that your 30-foot range spell works.
Yeah.
You know? And that was like literally it. And it was never a problem. And the reason it was never a problem is because I always went in the player's favor. Like, if I eyeballed something and it looked more like 35 or 40 feet, whatever. You know? If it looked more like 50 or 60, you're not going to get all the way there with your standard movement, but you know, and I just didn't worry about it too much. I also didn't worry about it for enemies, so it was fair. You know, it'd just be like, like, it looks like he can get to you in this turn.
Look, D&D 5e, we don't like extra math here, okay?
Just leave that to the 3.5 bitches.
5s. That's it.
I am a theater teacher, not a math teacher. That is the thing.
I mean, I work in the tech field and use math every day. Fuck that shit. But thank you for the question, MTG fan. That was a good question.
Yeah. Also, they just said technology is amazing. I had my group send me their STL files for printing. I'm assuming from like Hero Forge, like creating the minis and printing them yourselves. Oh. That is the coolest fucking thing. I can't even say back in my day because it's like something that was available to me when we were in college, but I just, you know, the printer that they had for free at the college we went to was just not good enough to do those small details. So I'd love to, for one, I'd love to play D&D in person again, and I'd love to be able to get like actual minis and paint them. And oh God, I miss it. I miss it so much. Oh, but love my D&D family that I have online. So I guess I'll sacrifice for them.
Okay.
All right.
So we don't have any other questions in the chat, so
No,
I guess
we
we should
don't.
move on to our questions that we have written down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who went
Squad.
last?
I think it was Joe, and then we literally did group questions for 30
Yeah.
minutes. So I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so squad fam.
Gang.
How do we feel about purposefully running encounters where the party is overpowered and purposefully running encounters where they're underpowered?
Well, I'll start first because I did that quite literally last session in Evrand.
Axl
I
Rose.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yes, the
Got a
Ice
one
Rock,
that seems to
put
me
it,
reminds me of childhood memories.
Alrighty.
well, now this video has been taken down. on
It's
YouTube.
been demonetized. Copyright
Yeah,
strike.
Actually, no, you sang that so well that the copyright bot got you.
I enjoy both. I enjoy putting encounters in front of the party where they can just completely just fuck everything up and have a great time doing it. And I enjoy, humbling the players sometimes too. I think in the last session of Evrand, spoiler alert, I won't say too much. But anyways, there was a creature that was meant to guard a place. Well, the creature has to be pretty powerful if it's guarding said place. So it picked up one of the players and was just freezing everybody else and was doing like 50 to 60 damage, and they're level 5 at this point, and everyone in the game is kind of freaking out and going, well, we're definitely not going to kill this thing. But it set a precedence of that thing is very powerful. Be thankful it's on your side. To the flip of that is if you have a BBEG who shows up early in the campaign, and they're definitely not supposed to die early in the campaign, it's really, I find it very interesting to use that BBEG to instill fear into the party
Yes.
by making them overpowered. And sometimes that's not even having them have a stat block. Like, just knowing some of the spells that they would possibly be able to do, or like just like kind of just winging it in general. Like when the party goes to attack them, you do this much damage, and you're not even writing it down because they're just too overpowered for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I read this really cool thing online where somebody said they were playing in a campaign and the DM had just introduced the BBEG, and they rolled initiative for combat and everything, but basically anytime they attacked the enemy, they would say, like, I did 30 damage, I did 25 damage, I did 40 damage, whatever. They were really laying it onto this guy. And every time the Dungeon Master would describe, he doesn't react and he maintains a smile. And then when his turn would roll around, he wouldn't do anything. And they said that went on for 3 rounds before the players just stopped and just like looked at each other and looked at him in abject horror. And then the villain said, "Now do you want to talk?" And that's crazy.
Stealing that.
Yeah.
To a lesser extent, I started a campaign once with the players were gonna be hunting the leader of a gang that was in the middle of like a mesa, so it was sort of like a Wild West kind of area. There was like, a thieving gang out there. And they were going to hunt down the leader, but that was just going to be like a microcosm to get them into the bigger story. And as they were hunting down this leader, they already knew how tough he was by his like body count and bounty and all that stuff. But then they saw somebody that he was making a deal with come in and pick him up by the throat and hold him to the ceiling. And he was a Goliath. So like, and then that was the BBEG, and they didn't, next time they saw, they did the thing, they fought the bandit leader and defeated him. It was the toughest combat encounter they had done so far, but they won. And then the BBEG came back, and it was like they immediately knew no combat necessary, no abilities even necessary. They were like, oh, we're gonna die. Like, we can't, there's no way. The bandit leader almost killed us, and that guy was a toothpick to him. So, like, like, we can't
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a really good way to set up like layers
Yeah.
to your campaign right from the beginning, to be like, this world is bigger than you, and it does not like cater to what level you are depending on where you go, you know, and it like sets that up early on, and it gives you things to look forward to, you know.
I have a thing to add, but after you, Joe.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I believe both are important. Just to keep it brief, overpowered encounters, to let them know that there are still things that are better than them. Right? Anytime the Forsaken have shown up in any one of the campaigns so far, they're a legitimate threat that needs to be taken seriously. Just because I threw them in front of them doesn't mean the party can attack them yet. Right? The moment that the Salamander Coast knew that 4 of the Forsaken were in Brahmsgrove, and Bianca was underneath the noses of 3 of them. Bianca can't fight 3 of the Forsaken 1v3. Like, this isn't Chivalry 2. She can't, like, block and then slice the other 2, and, you know, she can't do that. It takes, by the way, Felicity, sorry to break it to you, but one of the Forsakens already died, so you'll need to rework that question.
Wow. Wow.
You were there.
Sorry. That was it was a little dicky way to say that. Not the rapper. It was just kind of mean. I'm sorry. So yeah, both are important. I do. Sorry, John. You can say your thing. What were you gonna say?
This is. I was trying to think of how to like what I was gonna say. This is for players. If you're a player in a DM, obviously as a player, you're not going to be sad if the DM throws an underpowered thing at you and you get to just destroy it. You're going to be happy. But there are some players out there that if a DM throws an overpowered thing at them and they get their ass handed to them, they get upset. If you're one of those players, I think you need to reevaluate D&D in general. Because I've had players like that where throwing something overpowered at them and kicking their ass like really just grinds their gears and like they just dislike it so much. It's like that I feel like in a campaign, at least the campaigns I run and I know you two run, it's kind of like a given. You kind of have to do that at some point. So if you're listening to this or watching us right now and you're a player that does that, rethink how you think. There you go. That's all.
John's out here taking shots. He's lining them up.
I think it's, you know, if you're playing combat focused D&D, then like I get it to some extent, but you know, if you're in a story, then that's just gonna happen. You know, like recognize that your dungeon master is attempting to give you a satisfying conclusion.
We're not trying to kill you.
Yeah. Pretty much never.
Yeah.
Pretty much never.
Ever.
At least if you play with one of the 3 of us, never.
Trying to maim you? Yes. Kill you? No.
I do. This is a short one. MTG fan said a little bit ago, one of their favorite tools is Shoot the Monk, and this is something I read on Reddit a while ago. Is like Shoot the Monk as the concept. Like monks have the feature deflect arrows and throw them back, so use it. Like shoot the monk. Let the monk do the monk thing. Yeah. Do you two have anything that for like other classes that you can think of off the top of your head that are in that similar vein?
This is sort of an answer to the question. But it's this concept of when I'm running a party like long term, obviously with one shots and then like a short campaign like Rising Ash, it wasn't as much of a factor. But if I'm running a really long campaign, something I always do is I like to have the sheets, and I just keep track myself of like what they're proficient in, their armor class and HP and stuff like that, just so I kind of know and can give them information based on that and keep combat moving quickly and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But also what I like to do is at some point in the campaign, I think to myself, okay, what is something that would really be easy for this party? Just whatever they've got going on. Maybe this particular party is really good at healing, or really good at single enemies, or just really good at dex saves, or something like that. Like, what's something where they would just absolutely kill it and look like badasses? And then what is something that would absolutely crush them? And then I try to make both happen. And then you can do it on an individual level too. easiest example, I had a player who was playing Kothar. He was a lizard folk barbarian fighter mix who had 20 strength, 18 con, 8 intelligence, and 6 charisma.
Ooh.
So he did what he did, and he was a wonderfully compelling character, who, you know, despite the 8 intelligence and 6 charisma, it didn't feel hammy or forced or like one note or anything. He was so wonderful.
Yeah.
What that meant, though, as his DM, to me, is I was like, I am going to, every once in a while, just make sure that there is a huge enemy that the party can just be like, Kothar, sick 'em, and then just run at him.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to make sure that specifically Kothar gets targeted with intelligence and charisma stuff. And
sorry,
because-
Evelyn, I don't want to interrupt, but we just got a really sweet
Meatball.
message from Meatball1153. They said, I really enjoyed D&D content. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having such a chill stream. You turned my day around and allowed me to take my mind off some things, saving me from a panic attack. Thank you, guys, again. And then with a little
Meatball!
with a little bless and a little 100. Well, you know what?
Spaghetti underneath.
Meatball, you're 100. You're 100. All day, every day.
You're
Yeah.
breathtaking.
You're breathtaking.
Ravioli. Ravioli, Great Barrier Reef, Meatball.
Hey,
1153. That's
Meatball, we're glad that we were able to shed some
Yeah.
light on your day, buddy.
yeah.
I mean, we have a Discord server. You can come in and chill with us
We
whenever
vibe.
you want.
Especially if you play
Absolutely.
chivalry. Especially if you play chivalry too.
Don't play with me though.
Don't
Drop
play
them,
with John.
Them
Yeah,
good feels.
John
There
is-
you go.
John's
toxic.
sweaty.
But hey,
Um,
Meatball, glad you're having a better day.
No, but yeah, honestly. Anyway, Evelyn, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That warranted interruption.
All I was gonna tack onto that is to bring up werewolves again.
God, I
So
love
the
talking about
werewolves-
D&D.
The moon.
The werewolves, in Silent Shield and in the thing I ran years ago, they have their charisma save thing to, like, you know, if you've been attacked by them, they can convince you through sheer charisma to, like, give in to how good it feels to shift, you know? And even though you won't immediately shift, you will, like, start fighting for them temporarily because you'll be so overcome with that sensation. And it's a charisma save. I basically, the whole reason I made that encounter is because I was like, okay, a few sessions ago, Kothar 1v1 to Hydra and won. That is the coolest he ever needs to feel.
Yeah.
It's good for the campaign and for him and the party and the story and everything to now see a situation in which he needs everybody's help. Because he just killed a Hydra alone. Like, we know what he can do and excel at.
Capable,
you know.
Yeah.
So, the lycanthrope leader, who in that version was a wereboar, in the one I ran for the shields, the wereboars were the lame ones. They were the ones that said squee.
Was that squee? Yeah.
Oh, sweet! But no, this one was a wereboar leader, and he did the thing where he was like, you know, roll a charisma save, and everybody was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And then you could try to convince Kothar to snap out of it, but he would just have to re-roll a charisma save.
Yeah.
So he brought, like, the party's, like, favorite NPC from full health down to, like, 6.
Oh.
Because he just was confused.
Yeah.
He was just beating the shit out of her. So I think, like, over and under power as far as, like, levels and tiers of play is one thing, but it's also just, like, yeah, like you said, like, shoot the monk, and then also make the barbarian make an intelligence save, you know? Like,
yeah, positives
I think
and
both
negatives. Yeah.
both are very important. I think when you make a player need help,
Yeah.
it reinforces the teamwork, I think.
I think it boils down to, I mean, my answer will be super, super quick, is read your players' sheets. Not
Yeah.
all of it.
Mhm.
Just read what they're good at and what they're bad at, and then base your encounters that matter to the story around that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You want to challenge your players, and that's how you challenge them. You make them do things that their character sucks at, and then you also let them do things that their character is really good at. So you just be aware of those who are playing at your table and what their characters can do.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, as Joe has done several times, I mean, you pretty much know that Cecily is borderline overpowered unless somebody can close the distance.
Yeah.
You know? And and so you have placed encounters in Salamander Coast where she has a wonderful position and hardly even gets hurt. And then you've also made combat encounters that are in a narrow, tiny room where it's like, well, shit. Like, and then everybody's like, there's the one that cast Fireball, kick the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And then there goes that.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's very important. I would say on this subject, the big thing for me is obviously with talking about running combat, I think one of the big reasons why people feel like rangers are useless is because in combat they're not as effective. So I think that like my piece of advice that's related to shoot the monk is like make the ranger explore the environment. Like make them explore, make them track,
Yes,
make them
please.
survive.
Please.
And if you have somebody who wants to play a ranger and they're like, yeah, I'm really excited for it. I've got a dog and he's cool. He's a mastiff and he has a bone with him all the time. Like, give the dog shit to do. Like, let the dog
Did you just
find a bone, dude.
make a give dog a bone joke?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was actually really good.
That was really good.
On that note too,
Oh, yeah.
if you have a warlock in your party, you
Short
gotta
rest.
take short rests.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Yeah.
It's not an option anymore. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you're gonna have one of your players who gets to the third combat encounter of the day and is like, well, guys, I can kick people.
Eldritch Blast.
Well, on top of that, you need to run more encounters during the day. If you're a DM that only runs like one encounter,
Yeah.
you make the warlocks feel less of a class because they don't get to use their short rest and get all their shit back ability
Yeah.
because they have
Which
one
is
encounter,
like-
they're like, oh well.
Yeah, which is like the
Cool.
whole point. Like they're meant to be like ultimate supernova, and then take a nap.
And I fall into that. I forget to
Oh my
do that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'll say
Next
that
question.
they asked me to say the word that is when two people who are married get separated legally, which I do say it differently. It's the same way that I say pillow, right? I say it with an E. Sue me. I say divorce.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know this about.
I don't
I've known
say-
you for
All right, next
7
question.
years, Joe.
I don't say divorce. I say divorce. Yeah.
All right. Well, now we know
Wow.
something.
Like it's
There
a
you go.
fucking Harry Potter spell. Yeah. Divorce. There you go.
Divorce.
Divorce.
Divorce separatus.
I was feeling unhappy with my marriage. So I
MTG
decided
Fan
to
2010 has another question.
divorce separated.
Yeah, that's
Holy
clip that.
shit, dude.
yeah. Somebody here, I'll hit the clip button. I'll do it later.
All right. MTG Fan has another question. How do you deal with power creep that is in favor of your players without bogging them down with more encounters?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That is a great question. I think
Same
part of what
amount
we
of
said.
encounters, more things.
Yes, and I also think part of what we said as an answer is you have to find the weak links in their chain because there is.
Yeah.
Um,
Regardless
notice-
of what level, what class, there's something that they're not. I can hear them laughing in the other room about the way that I say divorce. Fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the hand motion.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys.
You
that's so
gotta
good.
find the weak link. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, like listen, paladins, especially in like the level 5 to 8 area, borderline overpowered, right? When you're fighting one target. As
Yeah.
soon as you make it, like it just throw like 5 minion creatures at your paladin and watch them get fucked up.
And have
Mhm.
spell
You know?
classes that make them have to do deck saves. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
like
like
your
even
armor class doesn't work when you have to dodge.
Yeah.
like if you don't want your players to go into because honestly, the thing with power crawl, I think that especially for spellcasters, really any class, it's the amount of resources you have. This is something, Evelyn, you ran into with the Silent Shield the last session. Is
yeah,
as
because there's only time for one.
Yeah. And I think a great way to overcome that is skill challenges that require the party to use their resources, right? If they fail a skill check, 20 HP worth of damage, right? They get hurt, or they can avoid getting hurt if they use a fourth level spell slot to cast Dimension Door. Okay, well, they've expended a 4th level spell slot, and skill challenges take 30 minutes, where combat encounters take 2 hours. So you can take 2 combat encounters and 2 skill challenges, and you can do those in a session if you're really cranking through it. And it provides a really compelling session.
Yeah. I will tell you, very quick piece of advice I heard once that I still remember years later. Don't know who said it. It was on Reddit. The land of anonymous advice. Half of which is poor. But this was good.
Very true.
And it was... if you have an encounter coming up, but you feel like it's coming too soon, just have them need to cross a river. And like, that's right.
I'm laughing so hard because in the Cold Over Keep campaign, I made you guys cross like 4 rivers.
Yep. Yeah, you did. No, because it's particularly a lower level thing. Obviously a level 12 party's not gonna have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But they might still use, like simple stuff like that to burn supplies before they even get to the combat encounter. I found is really, really helpful. It doesn't need to be a whole second combat encounter before the big one. If you don't have the time and pacing for that in your story. I actually do. I had a thing prepared to ask just about terrain in general. And if you guys have like favorite terrains and hazards and stuff. And as a segue, I will say that would be my other part of the answer to your question, MTG. I think that one of the quickest ways to level the playing field for everybody on that map is to have nasty terrain. It's going to cause everybody problems. It's going to do a bunch of damage if people don't watch out for it, and it can be used by anybody for leverage. I remember there was a encounter in Cold Over Keep, actually, Joe. There was an encounter we had that was on a cliffside, and I had the cantrip Gust. Yeah. And I noticed that somebody was standing right on the ledge, and I'm like, it's a strength save, and it pushes them 5 feet, but that's enough.
That's I only need 5.
Yeah, like they're in the hands of the gods after they fall off that cliff. I've done my job, So like just fucking do a snowstorm that makes everybody blind. Fight on top of a cliff where people fall off. Have an avalanche happen.
Yeah.
Underwater, dude. As soon as you're fighting underwater, all bets are off.
Yeah. Everything changes,
unless you're some sort of race that can swim underwater with their. Well, I mean, I just played one, but unless you're one of those people.
Which again, shoot the monk.
Shoot the monk.
Shoot the monk. Yeah. Make the lizard folk swim.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Or the water genasi.
Yeah. Evelyn, you had your thing. After your thing, we have a question from Ryan and another question from MTG fan. And okay, yeah, those are the only 2 we're missing out. Oh, sorry, Felicity. I will say, legitimately, to answer your question about which one of the 13 I think will die first, like player killed, I think it'll be Cassius.
Really?
In Isles, yeah. I think that he's probably going to be the first one. If not, there are a couple that are in the Old Kingdom right now that maybe Salamander Coast will deal with first, but I think that Cassius is the first one on the chopping block.
That's pretty surprising to me, actually.
Yeah.
I would have guessed a few others first.
I just think that he's going to be the first one because it's going to be him and Mez and Kelnos that are fighting the party and Emeriel when they save Emeriel. So I think it'll be a Thor Lorokhan situation, and I don't know if Cassius will be able to leave because Emeriel's there.
Right.
So that's where I'm thinking. So that's the real answer to your question. as opposed to just.
Well, actually, but yeah. So favorite terrains or hazards, combat encounters you've run that had fun terrain or hazards, stuff like that. Because I think that is a huge way to amp up combat and make it make the players think about everything differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Heck
yeah. Because did you have a question related to terrain, Evelyn?
That was my question. What's your
what's
favorite?
our favorite terrain to run?
Oh my god! Holy shit!
Yeah,
it's okay.
I literally, in Chivalry when you respawn and you fall through the map and you didn't even get to. That's what I felt right then. I literally was falling and then I respawned and I was like, "So Evelyn, what was your question?"
by the way, anybody watching, we've been playing a lot of Chivalry.
Correct.
Lately.
So much.
That's why it's come up 3 times. It's not because it's like really popular right now, in particular with the whole world. It's just very popular with these 3 people.
Yeah, it's not an Elden Ring situation. It's like your friends get really into like some kind of niche game.
Yep. Yeah, and we're in. We are in.
I haven't thrown a lot of like crazy terrains at my parties. That's something that's coming up actually in Evrand. That is, I mean, I think tundras and winter places is probably going to be my favorite because of the aspect of them in general. Like being able to blind people with a blizzard and having them fight something while they're blind from a blizzard just seems dope to me.
Yeah.
But also underwater too. I enjoy putting. I have once before put the players in water.
Yeah.
That aren't water genasies or lizard folk, and being like, hey, by the way, there's also a large creature in the water. Have fun.
Nice. I have not done it yet, but I have always wanted. By always, I mean for a day or 2. I've always wanted to run an encounter that was desert, and the party and the enemies are fighting over very vital resources, and they both are at level 3 exhaustion. I just think that'd be really interesting. Everybody is at half speed and failing, like, disadvantage on all of your shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the equivalent of, like, in an action movie, or like the Last of Us Part 2 final fight.
The end of Act 3
like,
fight. Yeah.
Yeah, where everybody's just stumbling over and you're all out of shit and you're just, that'd be like everybody's tapped out of spells, everybody's at level 3 exhaustion, and everybody's at a quarter of their HP, and they run into like the enemy group and they're like, this is my water supply. Not
even that, just like turning a desert into like literally having the party being chased by a purple worm, which I'm pretty sure was in the Silent Road or wherever we were.
The Silent Road in a ferret.
That goes back to overpowered stuff. Putting a low-level party in the desert, being chased by a purple worm.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Pretty, I like the idea of monsters in the wild becoming hazards instead of enemies because you simply cannot fight them.
I'm a big fan of just the desert encounter and just the aesthetics of it. I don't know. I just really love it. I've always wanted to run a desert, like in Calderaz, which is the western continent, that has like Odero and Cartasia and the like Wungji and Ifala and the pretty much like 3 kingdoms inspired by like the 3 kingdoms real world lore from China. Inspired by those places. Huge desert area connected to the Demon Waste, which is like the most fucked up shit ever. So I'd love to run desert encounters more, and I think it's my favorite terrain just because of the aesthetics.
Ryan's question.
This is my thing I'm most excited for in Isles is the Astral Sea as a terrain, right? Because terrains aren't just real world ones. The Isles group isn't ready for arcane storms. Like they're
those things suck.
They're not ready. They're not ready. And I'm very excited because I think that's going to be really cool.
Yeah. Look, I've had success in swamps, I will say.
Ooh, swamps are good. Swamps are a vibe.
Yeah.
They're a real strong vibe.
Because underwater is the whole way, but I feel like swamps you can do like a half water thing. where
Oh, yeah,
enemies
trudging.
Yeah, and like enemies can have the upper hand if they have swim speed. And you might like be desperately trying to stay on land if you're like a heavy armor character, but then get pulled into the water and
Just the swamp from Lord of the Rings, the Dead Man's Marsh. I think
Oh
is what it is.
yeah.
Here's the
Oof.
thing. I'll be really quick. Because you mentioned Astral Sea. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other planes of existence are just an
It's the
entire
way to go.
world of terrain, of difficult terrain. With Evrand in the multiverse shit. Oh my god, I
yeah.
can't wait for you guys to go to the Abyss, plane of fire, like all of these planes that you guys are gonna go into.
Hell yeah, man.
It's gonna be amazing.
You should
It's honestly
for people who are running
Yeah,
to
yeah.
run like multiplanar travel and things, you should look. There was an expansion to Magic the Gathering called, I think it was called Plane Chase. It was a mode of playing the game. If you can find Plane Chase cards like online, I know sometimes they exist. It is really cool because with each Plane Chase card, it would tell you a new thing that would happen when you entered that new plane of existence. So, John, that might be a good thing for inspiration because, like, I don't know what you have planned, but Magic the Gathering has so many planes of existence. It is stupid. It's so stupid, but it's so cool because anytime you go to a new plane, there would be some new magical effect that would, affect you and the way you played the game. So I think that if you're wanting to do that, that's a great spot for inspiration.
Yeah, I just environmental hazards, man, are like the main thing I love when I make like a precarious rope bridge just waiting to be cut.
Yep.
Slippery ice, or like a giant sleeping monster just outside where the combat is happening so no one can make too much noise. Like there's just so much
There's a lot you could do.
There's so much fun to be had.
Last one, and then we should move on to Ryan's question.
Yeah.
Also, difficult terrain doesn't have to be like normal terrains or either planar terrains. It can also be somewhere that's been affected by magic that causes the party to start going insane if they fail Constitution saving throws. Or that exists in my world somewhere. You guys will probably get there. But like creating a magical aura just in the place itself.
Yeah, that recently just happened in Isle. So yeah, it's gnarly.
Yeah. All right, we should get on to the next question.
All right, Ryan's question. Are there any particular classes you find it hard to balance combat with? I've heard DMs complain about wizards and paladins. Me personally, no, because it's that thing about finding the weakest link, as I don't typically have trouble balancing it. Because for one, I like my players to feel cool and feel overpowered to a degree, but also because I know the weaknesses of those classes, you can easily overwhelm them and sort of balance it out. Like I think it was Evelyn, you said like throw 5 people at the paladin to fight at once and they'll realize how not powerful they are. Right? It's when a paladin can supernova that they're powerful and they can hit one person super fucking hard. When you take that away from them, it balances the encounter out.
Yep.
Yeah. And I know for Cecily, it's like as soon as enemies aren't clumped together, I'm just doing like pea shooter stuff. Like those first couple rounds where I can hit a bunch of enemies at once, incredible. But like as soon as enemies and my team is all clumped together, it's like, I'm not just gonna fireball everybody.
I will say my crux and something I think I'm gonna get over are druids. Druids are. Yeah.
You hear that, Yrsa?
Druids are a force to be reckoned with, especially at higher levels.
Oh my god, yeah.
When they're able to be shape and to crazy shit, and I think at some point they get true polymorph. Like it's just, they're just a pool of HP that can also do all this other crazy stuff. But to what Joe said is, balancing an encounter against those things, you don't really have trouble with it.
Yeah, it's just an awareness thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier of just, you make them feel really cool every once in a while, and then every once in a while you find out what makes that class weak when it doesn't have the help of everyone else. And you just target.
I will say also on that, I think that any DMs that might be having trouble with certain classes, read the class. Look at what the class can do, because there's a lot of times, and I've noticed this playing in other games, is the DM throws something at the party, and then one of the characters does something that the DM has never even heard of or knew they could do, and then they're just blindsided. Like the worst example would be like they throw a big group of zombies at the party, and the sorcerer casts fireball, and the DM's like, "You can do that? Well, shit."
Yeah.
That's
Right.
the worst example I can think of because fireball's so well known. But just read what your players can. You don't have to know what all of the things they can do.
Yeah.
Just get a general feel of what they can do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. Dude, sick.
Do we have any other questions?
I
in the
don't think
chat?
I think we got them all. MTG fan did say putting a PC in water that has swim speed is the same thing as running in dark places where a PC has dark vision. It really is. Like make those players feel good about having that swim speed if they're in a place,
Yep.
where that's possible. I will say we're
Correct.
running up to the hour 40-minute mark, so I'll say like if any one of the two of you have any really important questions we want to do, or if we want to do some quick fire, like we ask the
Yeah, I think
questions
we
we
should
have
rapid
left, we
fire.
try and like rapid fire get them out. That way we can
Yeah.
back end it.
Especially because John, I don't even know if you got to ask any of your questions.
I have not.
All right, John.
It's okay, though.
Here, you know what? This is the I was about to say JonTron, but that's a YouTuber. That's not you.
Nope.
It's the Keemstar Hour. Because
I'm leaving this call.
no,
currently
don't
right
leave,
now.
don't. No. So
rapid
yeah,
fire. We're gonna rapid fire.
rapid
We're gonna
fire your
take
questions.
A couple minutes. Well, we also have one for MTG fan, but my first
Oh, that's right.
question
That's right.
is online specific because you
Yeah.
can do this. You can do this very easily. IRL. How do you make combat dynamic?
I think that the big trick to making combat dynamic, whether it be online or in person, is adding things that change in the battlefield.
Mhm.
And you don't need to do
Yes.
this every encounter, but every once in a while, you need to have the battle map change as the fight is going. That varies from thing to thing. Maybe you're playing in a desert encounter, there's a sandstorm, the dunes keep shifting. So if you're standing in the same place the entire combat encounter, you literally get buried in sand. Or if it's a hurricane or there's a tornado, like there can literally be trees that fly in, knock down other things, and make difficult terrain in an area, right?
Yeah.
Adding those changing elements in a combat encounter is really important to keeping it dynamic and fresh.
I
Yeah.
would say mine is mine is when you're making your maps online using any tool, like even if you put like little trees or rocks in there, making your players know that those are things that they can use to their advantage. Like
Mhm.
a lot of it's communication too. Because it's a two-dimensional space online, a lot of players don't see that there's a boulder right there and they can hide behind it, and the boulder's 10
Mhm.
feet tall.
Yeah.
Reminding your players and telling them that, hey, there's a boulder that's 10 feet tall, there's trees over here you can hide behind. Also, even drawing on the map, like if they cut down a tree and you just draw a little tree that has created a spot on the map that's different.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
had great success with everything you just said. I start pretty much every combat encounter by just running down the map and the main interactable elements I see in it. I even think when we did Silent Shields last time, I said, like, this bridge is held on by chains that look like they're not doing great.
The ladder is 10 feet tall.
You know? Yeah. And this is a 10-foot ladder. These are boulders that are perfect for hiding behind. These gemstones are big enough for half cover. That, just like,
Yeah.
just lay it all out. I also, I totally doodle. The only thing I would add to it is phases. I think phases are a big deal in general, but I also think it really helps online to
Make different maps.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can make different maps, or you can change how they were interacting with a map.
Gotcha.
Like have, suddenly a different kind of enemy comes in from the south, and now they're defending the area that they were attacking before, or something like that. I think that can really, really help.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Also, goodbye, Felicity. Enjoy sleep. I hope that it's good for you. Dynamic combat, ship is sinking, more and more of the ship becomes submerged. That is a great idea.
Amazing.
Thanks MTG fan. 2010.
Next rapid fire question will be from MTG fan. How do you go about designing anti-parties or rivals? Myself, I've never actually designed one of these. However, I know how I would do it, and it would kind of be like a rune or like a dungeon delve kind of thing, where one rival party is looking for something that the current party is also looking for, and it's like a race against time. You guys got to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really, really want to do this when I run the Thrall campaign here on RWA in however long that's going to be. Because I'm doing the anthology and mini campaign stuff right now. But it's something I really, really want to do for a long campaign, is have a party that is the same level, just like another party of 5, and they're all a bunch of misfit weirdos that found each other and all have their own personal baggage, but are also kind of together saving the world. And... and they like occasionally work together, but occasionally are trying to get the same thing.
It's like playing Pokemon and you keep running into Gary.
Yeah, exactly. And like every once in a while, Gary's going to be like, no, I need to get to this gym first. But every once in a while, Gary's going to be like, no, we should work together to stop Team Rocket from blowing up a building or whatever they're doing.
Because I don't think that anti-parties or rivals need to be like Shadow Link. Like, they don't need to be copies that are just like the opposite and totally evil. Like, they should be, if they're really rivals, they should be another adventuring party. And this works better in the beginning of a campaign when it's like, oh, we're just kind of doing our own thing, trying to help people around, and they're competing for contracts. They're competing for people to work for. Who's the better adventuring group? And I think later on, do it. Yeah.
I think later on, right, that grows. If it's working and you want to keep it around, I think the contract thing can grow into siding with different factions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the stakes get higher because it's like, listen, we've kind of like had this mutually beneficial thing where we've let each other exist for a while, but like now it's like, our guys want what they want, your guys want what they want. Eventually, this is not going to work. And we might end up on the battlefield.
I know anybody in the chat who's looking to possibly run something like this. I've never run something like this. I'm not sure if you all have. I know that Call of the Netherdeep, there's quite literally a whole section of it that's about rival parties.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, the whole module is about a rival party. So that's a cool resource you can pull from. Anyways, next question.
Also, Ryan says rivals don't have to equal villains or even antagonists, and also Gemma says consider the party dance battle. That could always be.
I think that's meant to be like party.
Yeah, party
consider
dance
the
battle.
Consider the party v party dance battle. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Also, MTG fan said, my party has been introduced to the idea that an Inquisition party is looking for them, and I have been hyping them up on the encounter. Yeah, that's a great idea. Like, they've done something wrong according to another, according to another faction, and then that faction sends a group of adventurers out after them.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Evelyn is saying, yeah. Factions.
Next question of mine, challenging a large group of players. And this, I think this kind of gets from like 6 players onward.
Yeah.
Because at that point you're working with action economy. Like, how do you challenge a large group of players without just saying, okay, I'm throwing 200 goblins at you guys, have fun?
So I have 3 things. One, fuck CR. You're not worried about it anymore. CR is designed for a party of 4 that is having a handful of encounters every day, and even then it's not very accurate. Just forget it. Go, error on the side of high with your CR from here on out if you have a party of 6 or more. 2, separation. I know there's the whole dogma of like don't split the party, but there's an exception to every rule. And I actually think with a party of 6, even if they're not like completely separate, where you're rolling initiative 2 separate times, having them dealing with separate elements of the combat encounter. Like a big trapdoor falls down in the middle, and these 3 players are fighting these enemies, and these 3 players are trying to unlock the door while fighting off these enemies. Or like these people are fighting while these people are trying to stop the trap from flooding them or whatever. And then thing number 3 is targeting. If you just do it, it's kind of like bullying or whatever. So don't do that. But like, if there's a reason in your story, or even just in the combat encounter, for one player to get targeted, that heightens the stakes. Because the chances of one player dying is higher than all 6 players going down. If everybody, so it could be planned in your story where it's like, bounty hunters from one of you have like a character playing a criminal background, and it's like bounty hunters, and they're like, finally we found you, and everybody is trying to prioritize that player. It could also be as simple as, you hear the leader on the other side yell, take out the healer, and then everybody for the next 2 rounds is attacking your cleric. I think that's a great way to raise the stakes and kind of force the large party to kind of come together for a moment, because they realize that one of them is in a lot more danger than the rest of them.
Joe?
I would say my thing is, I actually started DMing, when I really started DMing was for a party of 8. So I started DMing in the worst way you can, because everybody was like, I want to play D&D. I've never done it before. And I was like, sure, come on in, bud. Let's just roll some dice. And so from a very early age, I
12.
I realized that you cannot. I didn't even think I read the DMG all the way, because I started reading it, ran my first few sessions, and I was like, this shit doesn't help, and I just kind of threw it away. And I just started going. And number one piece of advice I can give you, if you're running for 7 or more players, never throw just one big enemy at your party, even if they have legendary actions, even if they have legendary resistances, even if they have 4,000 HP and 25 AC. If you have 8 player characters, they are going to beat the living shit. Literally curb stomp them into the side of the pavement, make them lose all their teeth, break their fucking kneecaps, rip them from hole to hole, and carry them across the town saying, look at this guy we fucking massacred. Don't do that. If you're going to do that, make sure that one monster has 3 turns in combat. Roll initiative for each one. They get to go 3 times. That means if you throw an ancient red dragon at the party of 9, the dragon gets 3 turns. Every single time that turn happens, breath attack recharges. It get a chance to recharge. That means in any given round of combat, that's 3 breath attacks. That'll make a party of 9 players fucking grovel. They will say, please, for the love of Christ, forgive us for all we've done before this moment. Okay, I might have a
personal.
I might have a slight bit of baggage right now.
This
Okay.
is so...
Oh my god.
Okay.
All right.
So if you do one monster, at least give it 2 turns, if not 3 during combat. It will, for one, make that one monster seem even more powerful. It can do that much shit in 6 seconds. Excuse me, what the fuck? Huh? That's awesome. Or just throw groups of enemies at the party, right? Make sure that they're not just little pissant, little fucking like, oh no, I'm a bandit. Like, don't do that shit. No, like, they're legitimate threats. Because for a party of level 9, for there to be a threat, there's gotta be some big shit in front of them. And that's my answer for 300 points.
That's pretty
I
good.
think we're just gonna go on to the next question. This is pretty good. Yeah,
I think we got it. Yeah.
I think I have one last question. I don't know if anybody in the chat wants to ask another question during this rapid fire. But if no one else in the chat has another rapid fire,
went on a 5-minute rant about
this is going to be a very controversial question. And I've already asked before this to even ask it. As DMs, I would like to know your opinion on fudging dice rolls and adding or removing HP from creatures in the time of combat.
Yeah.
So obviously, every DM, whether or not they do it, wants it to feel like they don't. And that's the big thing. But I will be the first to admit that I do from time to time. What I won't do is specifically say when I do it, because I think that sucks the air out of whatever happened. To tell a player that, like, yeah, you were about to die, but the moment was too cool, so I turned that hit into a miss. Like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That's terrible for them. Don't tell them that.
Yeah,
That
it
takes
robs them
the
of that.
it robs them. It robs them of the memory of how cool they were in that
Yeah.
moment. Also, don't tell them that you were adjusting stats for them. If you're doing it, like, listen, the amount of times that the first round of combat has gone by and I added 80 HP to my boss, like, listen,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
happens, okay? It really does. It happens. I was like, well, shit, like, this is not going to be cool if they don't even get to do their thing, Like, they got to at least live long enough to use the recharge ability. But, like, yeah, don't even tell them that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's my thing. I do.
Yeah.
I totally do. There are moments where if I didn't, we would have a bad time. And that really is
Yeah,
it's a responsibility sometimes to be like, yeah, this just isn't fun if the first round of combat this creature absolutely creams two party members,
Yeah, because it's all about prioritizing the fun people are having at the table. Listen, I'm going to be honest with both you and everybody watching. I don't even roll dice. I just say numbers. And I just say, it would be fun if the enemy hit him this time. It'd be fun if the fireball did 45 points of damage instead of 22. I think that'd be pretty cool. I just say shit. And nobody's caught on yet, and I've outed myself now. So now I'm going to actually have to start rolling dice, and I'm really upset about that. But
I'm going to listen for the sound.
the thing is, but the thing is like, I obviously I'm being hyperbolic, but like, I try my best to prioritize the amount of fun somebody is having, because if I have a player that is rolling straight trash, complete garbage, they are rolling 4s and 5s exclusively, what I do sometimes is I make up mechanics that weren't there in the first place, which I think is the same thing as fudging. Like, oh, this player's been running really well, they knocked off the breastplate. Oh, the AC is reduced by 5 now. And then the other player can finally start hitting. Or maybe, it's not even that. It's like they go to do something, or somebody casts a spell that would make it easier for that player to hit. And I roll a 19 plus 7 on the wisdom saving throw for hold person. And I'm like, oh, well, looks like they rolled a 2. And then the player who was having a shit night goes, they did? Yes. Oh, and then they get a fucking Nova. They get to make up for all the shitty time they had before. And I think it's like, it's all about making sure people are having fun. Like, if that's not your priority as a DM, you shouldn't be a DM. It's not about your story. It's not about challenging the players. Like, those things aren't the priority, right? Those things are second, they're third, they're fourth, they're 10th to, are people having fun? Are they having fun fighting this thing? If they're not having fun fighting the thing, the combat encounter ends early, right? If they're not having fun fighting the thing, they get to hit it, right? If they're not having fun fighting the thing, something happens so they can have fun fighting the thing.
Yep.
That's my thing at the end of the day. Is it fun? No? Okay, well, let's make it fun.
Yep. Yeah,
That's why I don't roll dice.
I've fudged dice rolls. I've added HP. I've removed HP. Yeah, it's all about making sure that your players are having a good time.
Yeah.
There's nothing as a player. Yeah, there's nothing worse than rolling complete garbage the whole night and just not getting, especially if you're like a martial class that has
your
like,
only thing.
You're a barbarian. You got one attack, and when you got 9 people in your party, and it comes back to your turn, and you
7
roll,
years later,
and you roll, and you're like, does a 12 hit? No, all right.
Yeah. I had a player once who, like, he was entirely new to the game when I started DMing, and a few months later he like bought the monster manual and he got really excited, and he came to me and he was like, dude, I just realized that you make shit up. And I was like,
you lied to me.
I was like, listen, yeah, man, I'm not hiding that. I make shit up all the time, But he like found the stat block for a creature I had run before, and it was like, it says here they're resistant to cold damage, and I used a cold spell on them, and you didn't do that. Was that intentional, or did you just forget? And I was like, well, listen, man. A lot of times, this is just the inspiration, not the blueprint, and I just do my own thing.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. But also,
Hey, we forget things.
we forget things.
Yeah. It is
But
human
also-
to err.
And also,
Something else.
you just got Cone of Cold.
Yeah.
And you were very excited to use it. And I decided in that moment, nah, this thing's gonna get fucked up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, it wasn't breaking anything. You know, it's not like saying, like, the King of Devils is now vulnerable to fire. Like, that would feel weird, right? But it was one of those, I forget what the monster even was, but it was one of those instances where, like,
Yeah.
it didn't really, you know, I just
Make a
wanted him
difference,
to do full instead of half, or half instead of quarter if it succeeded, you know?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was it.
I will say, if you are a DM listening, watching, and you don't fudge dice rolls, and you don't do the adding or removing HP,
Fuck
you're
you.
hardcore. Oh, well, I was just gonna say they're hardcore.
I'm
Wow.
just
But
kidding.
yeah,
I'm
fuck
just
you.
kidding. I'm not gonna
was
isolate
good.
a part of the audience. I
Yeah.
respect you, but I question: are your players having as much fun as you think they are? Because
And if they are, hey,
yeah, I'm just saying, humans as people are very confrontation adversive. So if you go at the end of your session, you're like, "Hey, did you guys have fun with the combat encounter, right?" And they were like, "Yeah," and you're like, "Nice."
awesome. See you next week.
Maybe start asking
See you
yourself
next
the
week when
bigger
you guys fight
questions.
the ancient red dragon.
Start asking the big questions like, who are you and what do you want? And should you be fudging dice rolls, Prince Zuko? Okay, well, I think
Yeah.
on that note, it's 2 hours and 20 some seconds.
You
I
did
think that this has been an effective first episode of DM Roundtable. I feel like there was a lot of fun times had by all and a lot of good
Yeah.
advice. So I'm very excited for the next episode. These will be streamed sporadically, probably. I don't think it'll be in every
We'll figure out something.
Monday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
I
see.
mean, we're around.
Yeah.
The three of
G-
us. We're,
GG.
I think next time we
GG.
chat, I think next. So this was running combat. I
Yeah.
think next time we chat, we should talk about monsters, our favorite
Yeah.
monsters,
Monsters.
or
I
in general. I love monsters.
think why don't we each pick one monster and we bring it to the table and we talk about that.
Maybe more than one. I think we'll get really done really quick, or maybe
we could do three again. Like
Yeah,
the,
we'll do three.
we did questions for this, and
chat can ask if you know
Yeah.
how we
Yeah.
feel about monsters.
Yeah, yeah,
Monsters. I think monsters is the next subject.
monsters.
I'm a fan of
Monsters.
monsters.
I agree.
Me too.
Okay. All right. Well, tune
Yeah.
in next time for monsters, which may be Monday at the same time. I don't fucking know, dude.
Yeah, who
But
knows?
regardless, make sure you join the Discord so that way you can get a hold of us. And
Oh, yeah.
be a part of the
Dropping that
discussion next
link.
time. Yeah, drop the link. Tell your friends
Boom.
about it. If you enjoyed just chilling out, asking some questions, talking about D&D, please let them know. We'd be happy to have more people here. So I guess with that, thanks for watching. If you're watching on Twitch, don't forget to follow. If you're watching on YouTube, do not forget to subscribe. And with that, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Hey,